Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show about Sonic news, movie news, and Sonic movie news. We talked about the state of the video game industry yesterday, last episode, and I would like to continue this episode here on the Sonic Movie Show. My name is Ethan, and with me here on this perilous journey into space and the unknown is Devin.
Stars.
Huh?
I don't know. They said it during the state of play during one of the trailers.
Stars?
Stars.
Okay, sure.
And then he said some other thing, but he was all trying to be cool. He's like, stars.
Do you remember which game it was?
It was one of the earlier ones. I think it was either Dynasty Warriors or it was Skydance Behemoth, I think.
Oh, I
think it
kind
was
of
that
checked
one.
out during that one. That was one of those VR ones. Where
I have 3 notes on my phone because I was also working while it was going on, and I have stars written, and then I have Silent Hill 2, October 8th.
Yep,
I wrote
yep.
Astrobot, more big boss fights, and those are my huge notes I have. That's my big takeaways
Perfect.
from the state of play. But I know that's not the whole thing we're going to talk about generally, but we're just going to dive a little bit more into PlayStation this episode, because I know last episode was kind of a end of the console wars, but it kind of just turned mostly into Xbox, who's kind of
They're changing.
losing the console war.
You know?
They're changing. But let's look at the people are saying is winning.
Exactly.
And coincidentally, they were doing a state of the play when we kind of were talking about doing this topic.
Yep.
So
Yep. And there's overall PlayStation stuff we could talk about too. There's sales data and whatnot to talk about, just generally speaking. But the PlayStation. So as of the time we're recording, where's the clock? An hour and a half after the PlayStation Showcase kind of started. I guess an hour after it kind of ended. We're going to talk about it. I guess overall, for me, not a lot of the games I cared about here. But this definitely did still feel like one of those types of every now and then you get a PlayStation Showcase or a Nintendo Direct that isn't just like, here are all of what our own studios are making, like the big guns. It isn't just like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, then Splatoon, and the Animal Crossing, and the blah. There's a lot of partners in there. This isn't just like, Kratos and Aloy and Hunter Man from Bloodborne and blah, blah, blah. You get one of these that are just like a bunch of different stuff, and it really does feel like if you're a general kind of gamer who would even be watching this, there's probably a game there that you're interested in. Maybe it is, the Guardians of the Galaxy Overwatch thing. Or maybe it is the Pokemon Snap Magical Girl game.
It's Guardians of the Galaxy, because we were kind of loosely texting each other as it was going on, or when I was trying to pay attention as much as I could. And I almost texted you that. I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy, color palette, holy shit. And even some of the characters just feel like knockoff Drax.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Even just so Concord is what we're talking about. This is the first thing shown off on the showcase, or PlayStation State of Play. People get hung up on the naming conventions of PlayStation's 2 different types of showcases. Generally speaking, people have the opinion that a state of play is lesser than a showcase. A showcase would be where they'd be like Spider-Man 3 and Last of Us 4.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's like a deep dive into a specific
I guess generally
game.
They might be longer, but I wouldn't even say a specific game. There's been state of plays that are just about one game. Just like there's been Nintendo Directs about that. I haven't seen too much of a consistency between State of Play and Showcase to be able to be like, yes, I think it's just whatever they feel like at the time, that's what they're going to call it. I guess maybe they consider PlayStation Showcase a bit more of a, we better make sure this is good. But they had one last year, around this time actually, about a year ago, where it was mostly live service stuff they announced, and no one was really that excited because most of those live service things had no gameplay. It was CG stuff. Concord was showed off there, and all they showed off was that kind of 70s style logo that they have with the colors. I like that, actually. And just a very Guardians of the Galaxy type of spaceship interior. And that was it, in a pre-rendered, non real-time type of thing. So it's kind of actually nice to be like, what even was this game? Because I'm gonna shit you not, Devin. I thought it was a spaceship kind of game. I didn't think it was just Overwatch. When they said, oh yeah, it's a 5v5 first person shooter, I'm like, oh, oh, okay,
I thought it was gonna be like even more like one of those like
like Destiny or something.
yeah, I thought it was gonna be something like that, kind of like an either open world kind of open space thing, kind of like No Man's Sky or something, where you can go to like other planets and pick up missions. And I thought it was going to be like a co-op thing that you do with either with your friends or with online people, and you had to like because they were showing them
A
doing like
live
almost as like a
service.
heist kind.
Yeah.
But it was going to be a live service for sure. And once they're like, oh, it's a 5e, I'm like, okay, now we got another
Look at
Overwatch wannabe thing, which is crazy because I know Valve has a leaks kind of
Yeah.
Overwatchy thing coming out.
Deadlock
I'm
or
actually more
something.
intrigued by that because Valve just historically I think always does really good shit. So I kind of trust them to like I would give that one a fair shake.
Same.
I'm assuming they would probably do
Valve and Blizzard are
make
in
it
the same
free,
boat
too.
of like they don't really have a reason to release a game until it's ready. Of course, Activision kind of fucked that up for Blizzard. Like Valve wouldn't just release a stinker. Oh wait, remember Artifact? That was their last game. That was their card game. I think they canceled that game after it came out. But hey, maybe they were getting a little bit of.
I'm saying when
jealous of
they have
that,
experience with like
yeah,
like
yeah.
Team Fortress and Left 4 Dead and all that like I trust them to make like a good like at least solid. Maybe it won't be like I think that the until we're proven wrong is the heyday of Valve being like Half-Life and all that being like up there is kind of over because they don't really put out too many. But I will definitely give that one a shot because I
Same.
typically do like 5v5 games, at least give them a shot and have fun with my friends with, right? But I don't know. Like this one, I'm just like, we'll see. It depends. It really depends on like if reviews are good. And it didn't say if it was free to play or not. I feel like
It
these
said
kind of games you need to
pre-order,
make.
but that could easily just be like a deluxe thing, like you're buying, like all these games do
You're
that.
getting V-Bucks.
They're
with
getting
it
you
or
some
whatever.
like exclusive, a pack of some sort. You could pre-order that. So here's the
Yeah.
thing: I don't consider the original Overwatch a live service game. That's just a multiplayer game to me. Because it is just you're going in and shooting. Obviously, Overwatch 2 has battle passes and all that stuff where it feels more. But like to me, a live service is has more of a like I could play alone in a multiplayer maybe setting or with friends, and it's more of a cooperative thing with overall story, or basically Destiny or like the Division.
Yeah.
Helldivers, obviously. To me, if all this is just that one type of type of mode 5v5 of different objectives, I'm sure based on the map, as Overwatch did. To me, then like cool, that feels a lot more low commitment. The one lesson I want PlayStation and anyone that's making live service games to take away from Helldivers 2 is how low commitment it is. You don't need to care. You don't need to play. You just play when you want. They're like, hey, by the time, you log in after a couple weeks, they're just going to give you all those medals because the community earned them all for you. Like you didn't have that FOMO of like, if I'm not
Yeah.
playing, I'm not getting anything. And like the overall story is mostly just small text updates that you see sometimes. And it's kind of just a light, fun overall thing. You're not like having to grind out Destiny before the final shape comes out, which is their last or maybe latest expansion for Destiny 2, in order to be able to play that at all or anything like that. Like, no, it's extremely low commitment. Play when you want. It's fine. And for an Overwatch style game, that's obviously what I want. I couldn't play Overwatch if it was like, you need to be playing every week or you're going to be missing out. You know what I mean? Personally
Yeah.
speaking. But,
And I'm always on team of making them. If you're gonna charge, then it better be closer to like a Helldivers. Helldivers at least felt like it was worth the price of admission, because of like all the things you just said. Um, I feel like games nowadays like that are trying to build up this community where you can do. I'm assuming they're gonna want to do some sort of competitive thing. I mean, I'm as a person who plays Counter Strike every Friday, pretty much. Um, like I think when that game became free was like the best decision they made because it just opened the door for people who maybe were on the fence and always wanted to get in. There's an access thing there, and then once again, it's shout out to like, uh, um, you know, Valve, I guess, and all that is just like, um, is that having you had it chart they had it at $15 at first and they made it free, but like I think they're better at like keeping up with what's the best business practices for like these kind of games because I played games that are trying to do something like this before, uh and they're hot for like 3 months, and then once the streamers stop
Right.
playing it,
They can't adapt afterwards.
because they're like, no one's gonna buy $15 and then also pay for the battle pass and also
Right.
do all this and grind, and like, oh, you didn't get the new gun, well, you didn't grind during this specific month that it came out,
Games
or
like that
my
still
only
come out
concern-
like that. Foam Stars. God, that was like there's like the like battle passes that you buy, and then there's like character packs that are like $40 in a game that you already have to buy.
I was gonna say
that's
my
only
main
on
thing.
PlayStation.
I always get that's one thing I always get nervous with, like these hero shooters too, is that they end up putting them out too quickly. Like Apex Legends, I liked Apex Legends a lot, but it felt like every time I stepped away, I come back. I didn't feel like it was that long of a time, but like I come back and there's like 10 new characters, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? I feel.
And if you were
I don't even
kept
know how
up
these
with
players-
it, you could unlock them for free. But at this point, you're going to probably need to buy them if you want to ever play as them.
Or I just don't even know how to play against them because I don't know what the fuck half these guys
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Or people will be bitching like, why are you still using that character? That character's old. Or
But then that's the
you're not
push and
playing-
pull, because if you're really into the
Yeah.
game, those types of updates of new stuff like that are actually exciting and enticing. So you don't want to make those people feel like there's not much going on. That's why I was actually surprised with Helldivers succeeding, because ultimately not much has changed. You know what I mean? But like still, Helldivers 2 is the best-selling game of the year. The PlayStation version on its own is the best-selling game of the year. The PC version on its own is also the best-selling game of the year, above the PlayStation version. Combined, that's even higher. And to see, like, yeah, and it's still selling and people are still getting into it. A slightly lower price point, and, like, I think in a perspective adjustment on battle passes, like, we've talked about it before, but just, like, the fact that, like, the allure of the Fortnite Battle Pass, because they were the first ones to do it in any kind of real fashion, was like, hey, there's a shop you can buy stuff, right? And remember, when that came out, we were still in the era of loot boxes, where Overwatch and others like it were
Yeah.
king of, like, you don't know what you're getting and you're just gambling your money away, and it was a big thing. And Star Wars Battlefront 2. So Fortnite was like, we just have a store. And like you're gonna know what you're gonna get when you get it. You choose to get what you're gonna get. Obviously, their practice of cycling through, and who knows if that thing's ever gonna come back in the marketplace. Some of them don't, not for years. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I better get it now. But then when they started the Battle Pass, you got to see the whole thing. You got to play it. You use the free track, and then if you ever bought the premium, it retroactively applied. Of course, obviously, you get more points if you actually bought it early and blah, blah, blah. But besides the point. That we saw that at the time as, like, good. This is what we wanted. This is better than what we had. But their big pitch on it was, like, for the Battle Pass, as, like, a positive, was, like, nothing in this Battle Pass will ever be sold on the store. So, this stuff will only be here. So, like, you don't have to worry about feeling like, oh, I wanted the thing at the end and then we're going to sell it later. No, it's only here. And that was seen good early on. But now you have this constant FOMO in all of these games that want to do stuff like this, where it's like, hey, you want the cool Genji skin at the end of the first season of Overwatch 2's Battle Pass? I got that because I was like, I don't want to not get it. I already bought this thing. Like, I'm not getting it if I'm not
It's
going
just a
all
new
the way through.
It's a new way to kind of pressure you to either spend the money to just get the skin outright, right? And there's sometimes they have that, like, oh, you didn't get to the end of the battle pass, you can spend $50 and get it
And
right
booster,
now.
yeah.
You
Oh
know what
my
I mean?
god, I forgot about that stuff too. They always do that. You could buy tiers.
Yeah.
in any of these games. So the way Helldivers does it, where it's like, hey, these never expire. Yes, they are exclusive to these, but they don't expire. And yeah, they are once a month, but like they never go away, so it never feels like if you see like the one that's out now, the new one, if you don't like the guns that are in it, don't get it. Maybe later you might want it if you have more money or if you feel like it, then cool, but like you don't have to. And it feels almost like the way they have that game set up, like it's like just a progression system in just the game. Like it just feels like DLC. It doesn't feel like a kind of microtransaction-y thing, if that makes sense. So my hope is that PlayStation with Concord, and I know there was they didn't show it here, but they showed it last year. Free games? I forget what it's called. It is that like extraction shooter type of game, heist type of thing. This kind of looked like at first. I hope that like if it's a game I have to buy, especially, which I feel like is a bit of a death sentence if it's trying to be super microtransaction.
It's always risky to. I mean, I always think just making these kind of games is a risk at all now because there's so many out there, that like, and once you don't have a player base. If that ever drops down at all, it's so hard to get those people to come back. It's over. It's over. I mentioned earlier, like an example of this is Battalion. I actually really liked that game, but it was hot for 3 months. It was $15. It wasn't that expensive, but it was like $15, and everyone was playing it for like 3 months. But then as soon as like it dipped under 1,000 players, you couldn't find a match to play against actual people. Then you're just fighting bots, and then it's just like. And then I remember the last time I played it was me and David. It was me and David and then bots. And it was funny for a one-night thing, but like it was like, damn, okay.
It's not the same, obviously. Yeah, because remember like Hyperscape, Ubisoft's Battle Royale, like once their paid streamer marketing thing kind of ended, most of those people stopped playing because like either they wanted to go back to Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever, or they didn't care about the game at all. Like all of a sudden, like, that's it. Unless, unless PlayStation wants to pay streamers forever to keep Concord in the zeitgeist, they actually have to make a good game. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
We're going to find out. If Concord is free, I'm absolutely going to give it a shot. I'm absolutely going to play it. I hope, we can play it together. You, me, David, maybe some other people, give it a shot. And, like, overall as a community, while I generally chafe at the idea that, like, gamers know a game better than the people that made it, and when it comes to multiplayer balancing and whatnot, like I roll my eyes at some people that are very adamant on what needs to change. They know that something's wrong, but not necessarily the solution that they propose is necessarily good. Besides all that, overall, we're going to be able to tell right away if it's got the stuff, if it's fun, if it feels like it's got a mechanical something there.
That's the first
and
big thing.
If we see fun, it has it, if it's boom, I think the game would be a success. You know what I mean? But if it comes out,
it'll have a shot at being
or
I think if it's not fun, then definitely it's GG. I mean, if it is fun, there's still the risk of, especially if it's behind a paywall. Again, I think it's a big decision to make. Is if you put it behind, I don't even care what the price is anymore. Like if you put it behind $1, even like that still is a decision you have to decide.
I also think file size is a big one too. If I see a game as
fucking dude, COD would be fucking 250 gigabytes, and it's like
dude, Destiny's expansion is 300.
300, Jesus.
The final shape is 300 gigabytes. It already leaked. People are downloading it. That's half of an Xbox Series S, according to an article I saw.
Like I liked playing Call of Duty Warzone or whatever. I've mentioned it last episode, and like I have to every time I want to play, I have to basically reinstall it because I hate having fucking 200 gigabytes on my SSD or whatever the fuck I put it on. Because I just don't like having space being used that I'm not using currently, and it's just like, the fuck, dude. Like, I can't. Not for a game like this. Come on now.
Yeah. No. So yes, like, be like, hey man, it's free. Want to just hop in? Like, is it gonna take me 3 hours to download the game or overnight? Sorry, I just would rather not. I think I'll watch Netflix or play something else, But that's Concord. I feel like at this point we're just kind of bitching about multiplayer games in general. And there's other games, multiplayer. There's another multiplayer Overwatch we'll talk about later. It's in this very show. Next up, as many had already suggested, God of War Ragnarok is indeed coming to PC. This is in line with Sony's strategy they announced basically last night, as of the time of this recording. Multiplayer games will come day and date on PC, obviously, but and they're not shying away from this fact. Our single player games, for which we are known about, will be exclusive on PlayStation for maybe a couple years. Then they'll come to PC later. We want PC players to play God of War 2018 and buy a PS5 to play Ragnarok. Now, PC's a different market than PlayStation. Generally speaking, Steam gamers are okay waiting for sales. They're okay waiting in general. That's, I think, why overall AAA publishers feel like it's not that big a deal to launch a buggy, busted, stuttery mess of a PC port on day one alongside their Xbox and PlayStation versions, because for the most part, PC's games of those types have longer legs, and fine, people will just wait anyway, so they don't get too much of a backlash, I feel like, overall. But yeah, cool to see it's in. I saw the super ultra wide and be like, I have access to a monitor that's like that.
Ultra wide would be fucking nice on that.
And
game.
there's ultra wide, and then there's even more. I have access to a Samsung monitor that I think is 34:9 or some crazy aspect ratio. That would be pretty cool to play. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell any visual differences because I never played Ragnarok. Ragnarok was a PS4. It had to be able to play on a PS4, so it's not like it was.
Yeah, I was gonna say it didn't look any
foundationally
different
crazy.
To me. I watched this on my TV. Not that, granted, it's over a stream and all that too, but
yeah, true.
But I did watch it. I didn't see any differences, and I'm excited for people to play it because it's definitely one of my favorite. It still is my favorite franchise and one of my favorite games. So I'm happy people are able to.
Maybe
play
one day I'll play
want.
through the two games. Maybe Sonic Movie Show will
be
stream
nice.
me doing it. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll do a thing where you force me to do it. I feel like it would take a while. I'd have to just mainline it and not really try to go for platinums.
Yeah,
But
I think
for the sake of,
I think the first game, in total, and that was after I beat the game and generally the story and all that, I did switch it to easy mode to then just do everything, so I can just do everything, and
just
then
a breeze.
inherently. And then get the platinum trophy, but mostly it was just for me to I want to see everything. I'm just not good enough to beat some of these side, or I just didn't have the patience. I have been playing on normal on Ragnarok when I was last playing it, and I got pretty far. I am stuck on one part though, and then the DLC came out, and then I played the DLC, and I feel pretty satisfied with everything, story wise and all that.
Did you beat the game?
I did beat the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But there's extra epilogue kind of stuff. But
and
yeah, one of them is the last one I got stuck on is the Valkyrie Queen or whatever is back or something like that. So
the woke DEI PlayStation made a woman.
Yeah.
How dare they? Cool. Glad to see. Obviously more people are going to play it. We talked about it on the last episode. Where hey, when PlayStation releases one of these games, they're extremely polished because they've had the time to just let a team just work on porting an already finished game to PC. That is far easier than a game that's in development. You know what I mean? So I'm sure it'll get high reviews on the Steam, the user review type of stuff, and it'll be
it'll
good
probably
game,
be in the top
port.
10 selling at some point whenever
for a while
it
for
drops
sure
again.
Yeah. Because anytime, because I have all of the PlayStation's games wishlisted on Steam, and because if one of them's cheap, I'll just get it, whatever. I have the first Helldivers and Horizon Zero Dawn on there because it was $10 one time. But that's as cheap as I've ever seen one of those. Usually it's Spider-Man is still $35. That type of stuff. And even then, whenever either Spider-Man is on sale for $35, best-selling game on Steam during a sale. It's one of those things where it's they're okay spending not $5 on a video game if the quality is a
and reviews are good and all that. Yeah.
Next up that was shown, I am. This is why I wish. Even though I didn't want to live stream it, and if we were to live stream our reaction to this, it's a lot of overlap between what we would be talking about now. But but I kind of wish just for credit stuff because I called that this was Dynasty Warriors when I saw the Chinese warlord helmet early on. I'm like, this is Dynasty Warriors because like this is Dynasty, and then you see like crowds of like an army. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's Dynasty Warriors whole shtick. Dynasty Warriors Origins, um, these Muso games, as people call them, as the
2025.
kind of company that makes them calls it. They're like, what if Devil May Cry had like swarms of enemies and like a single attack sent like 3 dozen of them flying? Like it's that
It does
type of
look
game.
fun in that way. Yeah.
You're just it's just a beat 'em up in a sense, a very flashy beat 'em up, and people used to hate clown on these types of games, especially when Dark Souls was like at its peak. Like this is the only type of game that matters because it's so challenging and hard. It's not that hard. You just need patience. That's really it. But like these games, always no one that plays them ever complains. Like they love them, like they're fun. So I imagine, and this one actually looks pretty good too. Any game that has like hundreds of free moving characters on screen in an area, is always going to suffer in the graphics department. And this one looked pretty good, for what's going on. Then
it looks
sorry.
cool. I was gonna say, it looks cool. I like the logo. Like specifically the back.
Yeah.
The spiral.
He's got a tiger and a Chinese dragon and it looks like maybe a fish.
Fish or a peacock or something. I don't know. Some cool animal.
Well, it looks like we got the air, the land, and the sea, maybe. So maybe that's a fish. Then next up, highlight of the show, the new Pokemon Snap, Infinity Nikki. What a fucking name! I'm glad it's called something like this.
It's cute. It's cute sounding. Just on that alone, like if you don't know anything what we're talking about and just hearing that, it is a cute name.
It's like a magical girl dress-up game where you take photographs and maybe have boss fights. I don't really understand. I don't know if you fight in this, but like it kind of looked like
you
maybe
take photos to expose them on the internet. Maybe that's how you win the boss fight. It's like, oh,
you gotta cancel them.
Caught you cheating.
Yeah.
Gotta cancel them.
Yeah, you just see Jerry Seinfeld and his teenage girlfriend.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You see, he was cool. He wants to yearn for the days where men were manly and masculine. I'm like, what? In the eyes of your 17-year-old girlfriend?
Why is every old comedian like, is this what happened? Is this like the pipeline of like you're so old and like maybe ticket sales are going down or something, and then you just decide like, fuck it, I need it. Someone's at fault. It can't be me.
I
just think it can't be the fact that maybe people just moved on and that's okay. Like you had your time, sir. You're also like a multimillionaire.
Oh, for sure. Jerry Seinfeld, absolutely. I just think, someone must be mad that like the only takeaway from the B movies, it's funny to have the entire script be posted somewhere, and that's it. But
I did see someone say with Jerry Seinfeld, it was like, I'm realizing more and more it was actually Larry David. It was funny and not.
Well, yeah. Absolutely, George Costanza, but yeah, Larry David did do that stupid crypto Super Bowl commercial, but a lot of.
I feel like how many of them probably didn't know what the fuck they were. You know what I mean? It's just they got their agent was like, hey, there's this like ad that is paying well. Like, not saying it's a pass, but like so many celebrities do sell so many dumb products. Like
I think he avoided being canceled on it. I'm hoping Infinity Nikki herself can also be. I hope her name is Nikki, because I want it to be like you get like Super Mario. You know what I mean? Like it's the name of the guy. I want this, but yeah, it looks like it's like she as soon as the beginning of it starts and she magical girl transforms into a different costume. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what this kind of game is. But then it was all photo taking. There needs to be more games like this. Do you remember on the PlayStation 3? Sony Computer Entertainment, so PlayStation, published a game. I don't know if they made it or not. Maybe Japan Studio made it. Rest in peace. Sony shut them down a couple years ago. They made a game called Africa, where you took photos of animals in Africa. And that was it. And that's all it needed to be.
I'm okay with more simpler games. Like this game can be 10 hours. And if it's just me taking photos of princesses and looking cool, like that's that's kind of fun. I don't know.
There's
To
like
me, it
some
sounds fun.
evil woman that's like hung up at the end that I can't really see on the cameras, but she's almost Jesus kind of held up.
Yeah,
But that reminded me
yeah.
of the Elden Ring DLC where they showed the trailer. I don't know of Mirka or whatever his name is up there.
I don't know.
Pretty
This is
cool.
like I think just like one of those. I think the main issue with Sony sometimes is like, yeah, you have all these like big single player games, and they're always like, there's got to be some skill involved, like Last of Us, God of War, Stellar Blade, any of these like games coming out that there's a requirement of skill, and like there's not enough games I think out there that are for people who like who don't play those kind of
Just want
games. Who
something
for
interesting.
people and
PlayStation
it's
used
something
to be
interesting.
that. PlayStation used to be that, but PlayStation 4 and to now, all of their games have a very similar kind of look. But that's because their hardcore audience buys them all. I buy them all. I didn't buy Horizon Forbidden West, but you know what I mean? Like, but they, whatever.
Yeah, so something like this where it could still be pretty and fun, and I
Oh,
think
it
this
says
is
it's
like
getting
just
a
a
beta
different.
later this year.
Yeah, I think this is just like a different thing for them. Not saying they haven't done stuff like this in the past, but it's been quite some time. I feel like where we got something just I don't know. This to me is like one of those like it's like Stray, right? Where it's like it has kind of a niche audience, but it doesn't need to sell 5 billion
Right.
copies. But just like, hey, this is for like more of a casual gamer. We need more casual games.
Yep, agreed.
So
Next
I'm
up,
for it.
not a casual game. Well, one person's having a casual time. I called this the piggyback game in our text message, but Ballad of Antara. An action game.
Avatar.
Cool. It just seemed like an action game in
Yeah,
a
I didn't really
fantastical
have
setting.
strong thoughts. I didn't really have
Um,
strong. So sometimes when you have so many of these types of games,
they do blend together.
it's hard. They
And
blend
like they
together.
all
And it's
look
like, have I seen
cool.
this before?
They all look
Yeah,
cool,
but I'm
but
like, have I
like,
seen this before?
yeah,
When I was watching, I'm like, is this something I'm supposed to know
I don't
about already?
recognize the name, but I don't know. Cool. Then we got in our VR section here with Skydance's Behemoth.
Yay!
It seemed all right. I don't know how much.
It,
What else I have to say about it?
it's just another fantasy VR
Yeah,
game.
all VR games nowadays they have a budget or whatever are like first-person shooters that are obviously dumbed down because your actual body reactions are not the same as a controller or mouse. And
Yeah,
like the fantasy stuff of swing a sword at a couple skeletons that are like also not going crazy because
at
your
least some of the
body
boss
isn't.
fights looked kind of cool, like a little bit different, but still, it was nothing. Maybe VR will be cooler in 30 years, folks. Just give it some time.
Well, as rumors kind of state, PlayStation themselves didn't even really want to have VR this generation. Sony just wanted to make a VR headset, and their hardware division was like, because essentially, I think I said this. Sony used to make lots of different types of electronics, including laptops and computers. And when they kind of shut a lot of that stuff down, they didn't like lose that talent, so to speak. And so you have people that are like, we want to make the PlayStation Portal. We want to make these a new type of protocol set for wireless headphones, and so that's how we got the stupid $200 earbuds. And like a lot of that stuff isn't necessarily like PlayStation is the biggest breadwinner of the Sony corporation. So like if you're gonna make hardware, they're probably gonna be like, we're gonna make a PlayStation branded thing. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's why the VR headset even exists, because Sony wanted to make a VR headset, and if they did brand it as PlayStation, what are they doing? So that's why be like Naughty Dog isn't gonna make a game. Like they're struggling to make games for the system in general, let alone a peripheral for the system. We're just whatever. It's a cool thing, but it's expensive, and it's $100 cheaper right now on sale. It's still not cheap enough for me to just jump on it.
Yeah,
Especially if there's a PS5 Pro and all that
until
stuff
VR
coming out.
gets much cheaper, and I mean like higher end. Like I consider PlayStation VR higher end. Like I know you can get those cheap ones for your fucking phone and shit.
Right.
Or I think the Meta's
MetaQuest
whatever
3
one.
is really good, but also not cheap.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember how much those are going, but for but I I still think VR is like early gaming where it's like it'll have its time. It's just people are still figuring out how it works and what to do with it. And then once the demand gets a little bit higher and there's more options on the gaming end, they'll probably get a little cheaper. And
Agreed.
then one day it'll probably be more of a household thing to have.
Agreed. Then up after that, we have a very brief Alien trailer. I called it was Alien early. I roll my eyes whenever I see like science fiction things open up with the planet, and then you get the text in the bottom corner that says planet blah blah blah, class type blah blah blah, and I kind of rolled my eyes there. But then I saw some UI element or some graphic element. I'm like, this feels like a Weyland Yutani type of thing. I don't know why I'm thinking about Alien. And then it was Alien. I'm like, I wish we were live streaming because I had that reaction before it was on screen. It's not like last time when I called that it was Blade before you saw him, and then David's like, oh, of course, you read the thing out loud. I'm like, no, my reaction was late, but it was still before I saw it. Like, I called that it was Blade. Same thing here with Alien. Really, all of these types of directs and showcase and that type of stuff are really just an excuse to like really show how much of an insightful gamer I am. That's all I really think.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. No, I think this is cool. Sure. But Alien Isolation exists already, folks, and I would say don't spend your money on this one. Just go get Alien Isolation.
I bet there's a VR mod on your PC. I bet someone's made a mod that makes it work in VR.
Oh, that too. But I was gonna say you don't even need VR. That's still one of my favorite games I've played, like horror wise. That game I streamed it all, and there's a lot of good moments of me fucking jumping because it fucking breaks you down. It makes you. It honestly, I think it's scarier than Dead Space at moments because I know that people kind of
you can't really fight back.
And that game is beautiful. I don't know how they did it in that era and that budget and all that, but that game still looks straight out from the fucking movie sometimes. Like a lot of the analog like equipment and stuff that you interact with in the game, and the fucking sound design in that game is fucking great. So I'm just saying,
yeah.
Not saying this one can't be.
We didn't really see much to even really give a fair judgment. It was a very quick trailer, which kind of suggests to me maybe, I don't know if it's that type of thing where like I don't know how confident they are in it.
A 10-hour thing.
Yeah. I mean, hey, to be fair,
if it's
in VR, I don't want it to be long because I ain't going to sit in the headset for more than an hour anyway.
I like that they have the original Alien design too. I feel like with more of the ribbiness on the
girls like the ridges
there.
You know.
It's true.
Next up, hey, Overwatch is back. Marvel Rivals. They just basically announcing, I guess it was coming to PlayStation.
This looks bad.
People have already played
rough.
it. It's like in a beta. Influence and whatnot are playing it.
Like just like visual wise, it looks very jagged at moments. Like during combat, it just looks very mobile gamey to me.
Yes.
Like, it'd be an amazing mobile game, but like this is supposed to be on PlayStation. No,
you're on the money. You're on the money there. It definitely feels has a very mobile game look to it for sure. I think it comes down to like detail on environments and like objects in environments, especially in down
that
to
one map
bright
looks
colors.
Straight up. Looks
the
straight
whole
up like
game
that
is
one map in
ripped off,
Overwatch.
is ripping off. We talk about Concord, and yes, like it looks like an Overwatch. There's a difference between like taking that gameplay style and idea, and like Marvel Rivals uses the same hit marker types of look and sounds. A lot of the characters are doing the same types of stuff. Like the one character I saw in here was like, I actually would play for this. They show him very briefly playing as Spider-Man, just because the ability to swing around, like, of course, it's probably an ability on a cooldown or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Right.
like that would be cool. But like, I've seen footage of, and this is, of course, it's in beta, so you know things are changing, and they would not allow this. I don't think, you know, right away. But we played Overwatch. We played one of those attack defense missions where defense team gets let out early. The attack team has to wait. Defense team, same thing. Marvel Rivals. What's his name? Doctor Strange player can place the portals. Places a portal right in front of where the attackers are coming out. And it's a big portal because the big guy's got to be able to walk through it. And places another portal off a ledge. And they all just run through and die. And like that was like that's gonna be, you know, fixing all that. But like I'm looking at all this stuff, I'm like, even in this trailer and others, I'm like, this is just ripping off Overwatch. But to be a little fair, if at the end of the day when it comes out, if it's fun and like less of Overwatch 2 than Overwatch 2 is, then I guess, hey, it's okay if you ripped off Overwatch because our visions of Overwatch are 2016, 17, and 18. You know what I mean? Like, right now you can't play that.
2016? Did you say 2016?
Oh, yes.
Overwatch. They say Overwatch
Wow,
and
that
me
was
had a
that
great
year.
run. Had a great run. 2016. You had to be there, folks.
Played Uncharted 4 that year. It's insane. So that was Marvel Rivals. Next up, a game that was announced before, because I remember the title, did not remember the look. Another one of these.
This one goes out to Stepfathers here, by the way.
Explain.
Because he's holding this.
Oh,
guy's
he's got
holding
a little
a
baby.
kid.
Yeah.
He's not the. What's the fucking thing? It's the father who stepped up or whatever.
I'm not the
joke is
stepfather.
always.
I'm the father who stepped up. I saw a T-shirt that was clearly a Photoshop that says, "I'm not the stepfather. I'm the guy fucking his mom." or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that too.
Whatever. But it's another Souls-like, fantastical, highly graphically cool looking action game. It is one of those where it's like, eventually this will be on PlayStation Plus a couple years after it comes out, and I will play a couple hours of it, think it's really cool, and wish I had the time to play more of these types of games. Like this and the other one, Altara or Antara Legends or whatever, the guy with the piggyback girl.
Avatar, yeah.
There's
whatever.
no V, but you know what I mean. Like I would totally play that. I just it's not feasible for me personally to play. Like, it's just low on my priority list. I know I'm never going to get to it. I don't know if you had any other opinions on it, but it felt like it was a cool-looking game.
Yeah.
Cool-looking video game.
I mean, that's what PlayStation... I mean, like you said earlier, PlayStation has a lot of cool-looking stuff, but it's one of those, like... I haven't even touched Final Fantasy VII since I got it.
I haven't played it
I
in a
don't have
while
fucking
either,
time
and I don't know what's
anymore.
wrong with me.
I know. Final Fantasy finally broke you.
I guess.
It was your Final Fantasy.
Yes. I never finished Final Fantasy 16, but they actually make it's been going around toward the end of the story. The main character says, this entire thing was all your fantasy and we're its final witness. And I saw that pop up on Twitter. I'm like, is this real?
This is your Final Fantasy.
But then you know what? It's okay if it's fine, whatever. Next up, Until Dawn, 10-year anniversary. If it comes out
10
this
years,
fall,
huh?
2014.
Damn.
You remember 2014? Just kidding.
That's what people like.
That's when I announced. That's when I announced I was running. It was on SNL. Just kidding. He didn't do that. No, Until Dawn. I like Until Dawn. I like a lot of the other stuff that they've made. Even though sometimes the games will be a little buggy or not the most polished. And I'm watching this trailer, and I texted you this, and I'll share it with the audience. But I'm watching this, and I was like, because I remember they announced this last year that they were working on this remake, remaster, whatever you want to fucking call it.
Graphical.
To me, I'm watching that.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I'm watching it, and I'm just like, maybe my memory, like we've talked about this too a long time ago on the show, where it's like you're like playing or what you think an old game looks like, and then when you play it again, you're like, oh, this looks like butt. I don't know if that's like a situation here. It probably is, but I'm watching this, and I'm like, this doesn't look any different. Like this
it's just like The Last of Us Part 1, where people were like, these cutscenes look very similar. I saw a side-by-side when it was last shown off. Like, people did screenshots, and I think we're just giving the original game too much credit on the graphics department. It's not that great looking of a game, at least compared to this. It looked fine back at the time. I didn't have any complaints, but it's being remade graphically and unreal.
The frame rate to me was what my always issue was because I played the original one on PS4 Pro. And
did it ever have a Pro patch?
I don't think so. Like, it looked nice.
That's probably why then.
But it was still like 30 FPS, and for a game like that, like, you just want 60. You know what I mean? Like, you just want at least 60 there, in my opinion.
Everywhere.
Just 60 everywhere. But like for a game like that, it just it's supposed to be like a movie, and it just feels
then it should
off.
be 24 frames a second.
It should be 24 frames. When I'm in president again, I'll make every game 24 frames, folks. Like you're going to the movies. Yes, I don't know what it, like. I get. You said like basically it's a was it Unreal basically
What I
graphical
think it
remake.
is I think the underlying code is probably still the same. Like I think it is literally just the graphics are redone. It's the whole game is ported into Unreal Engine, and then that's kind of redone
I'm really
graphics on
curious what the
that.
price is going to be on this thing because like if the original one's still going for like 15-20 bucks at your GameStop, like is this going to be
I don't think GameStop has
like are you?
copies of 2014 era games. What I
I don't know.
I think
Last time I
really what we're
went,
talking
it's
about
been a
is
minute, but
I
last
think
time I've
it's the
seen it there, I've
PlayStation
seen
Store.
PS4.
Just like how you can go in and buy a copy of The Last of Us Part 2 on a sale for $10 on the PlayStation Store and then spend $10 more to upgrade to the PS5 version as opposed to paying $70 for the PS5 version. I have a weird feeling this game isn't going to do that. I don't think they're going to recognize or acknowledge the PS4 version at all. I don't think they'll delist it. But let me put it this way. This game is called Until Dawn. Not Until Dawn Redawned or Until Dawn Remastered or Until Dawn,
Redone.
again. Uh, it is once again Until the Dawn or something like that. It's just called Until
Until
Dawn,
Dawn,
which is
until
a very
dusk or
Nintendo
whatever.
thing to do of just do a remake that's just the name of the game again. You know what I mean? Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door just came out. I want to buy it. It's one of my favorite games. It literally used to be my 10th favorite game of all time on GameCube. They just call it the name. They don't say anything else about it. And this is the same kind of thing. And I think that they're not going to do any upgrade, $10 upgrade or anything like that. I think they're just like, no, you loved it. It's coming back. Plus, this is also coming to PC. So I think that's one of those like, hey, an all new audience is going to be able to see it and mod in SpongeBob and Pickle Rick,
Hell yeah.
but
And Shrek or whatever. Yeah.
and the Thomas the Tank Engine, just like Resident Evil 2. Remember, those mods for
Yeah.
the big guy was, yeah, which inspired an original video game, Choo Choo Charles. So next up,
That game's fun from what I've seen of it.
I haven't seen much of it. I imagine it is definitely good for a stream.
Yes.
That type of thing. Like a lot of
Yeah.
those horror games and stuff are. Next up, it's literally on screen now as I have the state of play looping. What I thought was the Diablo 4 expansion, because it looks so goddamn similar to Diablo 4, is graphics and all that, is actually Path of Exile 2. Excuse me. I always get Path of Exile mixed up with Pillars of Eternity because it's PoE, and I know that they are both newer Western, kind of heavily inspired by a famous video game. Pillars of Eternity is Baldur's Gate, or like old school Baldur's Gate that is their version. Path of Exile is Diablo, and I always get them mixed up. And I looked at this and like I thought it was Diablo 4, and I'm like, and I didn't even finish the first act of Diablo 4. I gotta get back into Diablo 4. This is gonna be cool. And then I see it's a different game. I'm like, cool. I should play Diablo 4. I didn't really. After watching this, I was like, oh, I need to get this. I was just like, I should finish this game. I thought it was.
Yeah. I think it looks a little bit more actiony to compared to the stuff I've seen from Diablo. So I'll give it that. Like it did look very like pretty and like it looked very smooth on my stream. Like in terms of the action stuff, like it looked a little bit more. Yeah, actiony is the best way I can describe it. So it looks cool. Once again, I think it's one of those games that, oh yeah, I would play it if I had the time, money, and all that. Yeah, I don't know. It looks
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I actually, I don't think this was a stream. I think this was just a published video that had YouTube's premiere function. Because whenever PlayStation has done this in the past, and in the current kind of era of YouTube's premiere thing, the way their graphics are, the chat sees like the colored square kind of whoosh. Whenever it goes green, they think it's PlayStation. They're like, "What does this mean? Is it like Xbox games are coming on or blah blah blah?" Like chat is always like that. So I think that helped the quality because that definitely like a stream will nuke your quality. But because I had the option of watching it in 4K, my monitors are 1080p, so I didn't. I saved on the bitrate, but I think it looked good because of that, and I think the game does look good. Next up, the highlight for me, a game I am excited to buy and get, Silent Hill 2. It's coming out this October. A better showing this time than the last trailer. Last trailer was like, here's the action gameplay trailer, and it seemed very much like against the spirit of Silent Hill 2. I want to tell some of these people, go back and play it. Like, I get it. Like, what you're remembering is not the action stuff, but, like, that was the connective tissue. Like, you need that stuff in the game in order to make him dying and anything like that seem like an actual threat. Like, whenever you see one of these indie games come out, horror games, where you're basically just running all the time, or that type of stuff, like, it doesn't feel the same as, like, back in the day when this game first came out in 2001, you could just have a mediocre type of action game, especially 2001 PlayStation 2. I didn't feel like we really even got to what we feel like are like, you know, Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry actually did come out in 2001, but still, like, you know, you would see that type of gameplay and feel like it was normal, not shitty, like the combat. And, like, because of all of the horror and, like, the you die really easily type of elements layered on, that's what made the game scary. You actually having the threat of losing the video game is what makes the scary thing scarier. You're afraid to turn around a corner because you don't want to die in the game, not because of a jump scare you're afraid of, you know. So a lot of indie games, horror games, I feel like, don't necessarily have that. And Bloober Team, not Bloober, they're making this.
Boober.
They make Layers of Fear and The Medium, and a lot of games I feel like I kind of just described. They're not considered looked at in a good light, and I know people were, I think maybe a little unfairly, saying that they didn't deserve the honor of making this game. I think that's a little up the ass of the people saying it.
And also,
they should get a shot. Who else are making indie or who else are making horror games?
Want this game at all then? Like,
Konami is not going to hire an expensive ass studio. I'm sure Bloober Team was a cheaper studio than others that they could have contracted to. Konami was not going to spend $1 billion on a game. I don't even think that sold all that well back in the day, but it sells a lot of cachet. I think it looked great. What did you think? I talked too much.
No,
what did you think?
No, it looks cool. I mean, I never played a Silent Hill game. If anything, my first experience with Silent Hill is the Silent Hill movies that we've reviewed. The first one, more specifically. Never saw the sequel. I didn't know it had a sequel until we fucking covered it.
Yeah. With Kit Harington.
But I've always liked that atmosphere of it and the stuff I've seen. I watched you play a little bit of it a couple Halloweens ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad this game's coming out on October 8th. I feel like if you're gonna drop a horror game, just please do it in October. It just fits the mood. I'm hoping I'll have time to maybe get it and play it. I still never finished Dead Space. Kind of took a break from it as much as I was having fun with it. And yeah, I haven't touched really much video games outside of Counter-Strike lately and Helldivers here and there. But yeah, I mean, it looks cool. I want to see more of it, I think, just to like get more. I want to know like how. I guess more like, you know, like I see this is kind of like almost like a story trailer to a degree, but I want to just see more of like how. I just want more details, I guess, of like more gameplay stuff. Like what is even like a uncut section from the game would be cool. Like just show me like
actually right now as we're speaking, I'm pretty sure it might have ended already. Is a Silent Hill showcase that Konami's doing. They might actually have. On what we're talking about. Because I just show me 15 minutes of a section, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Uncut. It doesn't have to be maybe within the first 2 hours of the game, nothing too far in advance, but like, yeah, I want to see more. But at the end of the day, like, I'm just a fan. Even if I don't play them, I still just glad that they exist, that there is like these, you know, Resident Evil type of games, right? Where it's like slow moving, tank controls, and there's creepy, weird shit and hallways and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm a fan of all these types of games. Even if I, like I said, don't play them, I want more of them just because hopefully it means there's more people who like horror like me that exist in this world. And I don't know. Then maybe there's movies too out of them. You never know.
I feel like we after we watched the Silent Hill movies, I'm like, someone should take another stab at one.
They are, and they announced that like a year or so ago.
Did they?
And it's based off Silent Hill 2, and it's the original director of the first movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Sick.
yeah. We talked about this. We talked about.
Did
this.
we? I
Yeah.
fucking missed it. I
Yeah, we
just
talked
remember,
about
I guess.
This was in their big
Hell yeah.
Silent Hill transmission they had back then, where they announced a bunch of games, including this one here. Yeah, super cool, super excited for it. One thing I am happy and about seeing, this often gets, I think people don't realize they see the original games, like the way the characters are and the story moments, and they find it just eerie and just cool and kind of hard to replicate. There was the HD collection of 2 and 3 on PS3 and Xbox 360, and they had to redo the voice acting, and they got Troy Baker to be the guy, and he tried his best, but it didn't sound the same. They got this freaking weirdo off the street to voice the main guy back in the day, and this was kind of really at the beginning of voice acting and stuff like that, so they never signed a contract that said that they owned the recordings for any future re-release of the thing. So like they kind of were stuck there. That original version, I have it on PS2. It's what I streamed a couple Halloweens ago. Like it's the only one where you could hear of the original voice cast, where they eventually legally had to not use them. And that guy basically never wanted to sign again because he knew he could get a lot of money for it. It was literally like a guy off the street type of thing. Weirdo Trump supporter.
They should do that.
Of course he is.
They should do it more often. Just find weirdos off the street.
And all the characters are just like, they feel real in how they are talking because they don't feel right. And right is very cinematic. You know what I mean? What we consider right in a movie and obviously a game that wants to emulate the stories of movies are very cinematic and like, and how like almost like you're an actor, like you've read poetry and have written prose before, and stuff like that. And I always feel like Silent Hill 2 felt eerie because of how like it almost felt like these people didn't know how to communicate as people. I don't mean like that and like they have like autism or anything like that, but just like a normal person in a weird situation that doesn't know what's going on and like doesn't anything, like their surroundings, their immediate. I find it that this trailer here showed that. I forget what her name is, but as we're talking to her in this trailer, like I got the same vibes. So cool.
It's like a awkwardness that I think is what makes it creepier, I guess. Like you said, like an uncomfortability about it.
For sure. Next up, Monster Hunter Wilds. Cool. I found it kind of funny that at one point in the trailer, because they show off the monsters and the fact that this game has like herds and stuff, which is new, and it's supposedly open world, like fully open world. Like Monster Hunter World was like, there's no loading transitions between the smaller areas that make up a map, like the PSP and the 3DS games had to do. It basically took those types of maps and just said it's all seamless. But Wilds is like a fully open. It might just be literally one giant map for all we know. I kind of hope not. But still, I did find it funny. Like after they're showing all of the monsters, we finally get a like kind of like, all right, now for me to show you what I can do. And then the guy just gets his ass kicked. Still, it doesn't really show like any cool combos with weapons or anything like that. Or it really just feels like you're just gonna die a lot. At least just the way the trailer was edited. But I think it looks cool. I think it looks actually kind of beautiful. Enemies have that same kind of reactiveness when they get hit and move around that World had. And even Capcom's latest game, Dragon's Dogma 2, showed with its enemies, where it felt like they're taking up a physical place. Like their movement feels like they have weight that shifts when they walk around, as opposed to like a character animation, as a thing slides on the vertices of your floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm describing that.
For me, it still looks... I mean, I just know it's more of a Capcom thing and a budget thing, I'm sure, but I'm like, it still just looks a little dated to me. Even
Really?
World did at some moments. I don't know. It just feels... I don't know. It just whether it's like I don't know. There's like clipping and stuff with like animations, and I get it. Like you can't avoid that kind of stuff, but just like I don't know. It just feels like I'm watching a PS4 game still when I watch some of these Monster Hunter stuff. But at the same time, I get it. Like Capcom isn't gonna be making, like Last of Us level of like stuff, but just like I don't know. Like every time I've seen it, I'm just like not blown away by it when I feel like I should be though. I don't know. Like maybe I'm just like overthinking it or maybe like expecting too much. Yeah, I don't know, but like it just like it just feels a little bit not as next gen.
Okay.
Granted, I don't know if this game is coming out
I don't think it's coming out on last
gen or not, but I don't know. I was kind of like wanting something a little bit like the colors are all pretty, like you said. I think it will be consistent and will look nice that way. But I was just hoping a little bit more polish, I guess, for a PS5 game. But this is like the only critique. Yeah, I'm curious, like with what you said, if it's gonna be like a big actual open world, or if it will be like world where it's like you have to go from base to base and then location to location.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it looks cool. I don't think I'll play it right away. These are types of games where like a live service, like this is obviously this franchise predates live service. This was true like co-op if you want. It's easier if it's co-op. You get more rewards if it's co-op, but like, I wonder if there's going to be any live servicey types of stuff in there. I hope not, because I think Monster Hunter World and Rise, that was the Switch one that came out afterwards, which then got ported to PlayStation and Xbox as well. Feel like they just have enough content in them as a game you buy once and just play anyway. And they actually, Monster Hunter World and Rise did have giant expansions that they sold, where it was just like, you buy the $30 expansion or however much it costs, which is cool. That's what I want more from games,
Yeah.
But yeah, cool to see how it goes.
By the way, I don't want to sound like what we were talking about off stream of like the graphic, like, people who are like, oh, the graphics look so bad either. I just think there's just elements like I saw in the trailer where I'm like there's one part where like they have the sword or like staff or whatever being held by the mouth, and it just like didn't look as clean as I think it could be. I don't know. But like I said, this is a trailer too. Maybe, it's not even until 2025. They might fix those things and it might not look as clunky at moments, I guess is where I'm kind of going, where it was like a mix of some of the designs and whatever just felt a little bit unpolished still. But like I said, I think they can fix that stuff, or maybe, it's adding motion blur or something to certain parts of the animation to make it a little bit
right.
less like that. It's hard for me to describe without.
And it comes out
sounding,
next year, so like there's.
I just don't want to come across either as like, oh, if it doesn't look like this level of quality, I'm not going to play it.
Because here's the thing too, like there's a reason why we get so many goddamn Resident Evil games so close to each other, is because that like they're not trying to make the greatest looking thing ever. And like they have a lot of teams that because they all work on one engine that the company made themselves and worked really hard on perfecting all these years, that like there's a lot of people that can mingle around and move to different teams and still make good quality, and that's how they're able to that's how Capcom survived. Because people forget, like, they were in a really rough place at the end of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era. They made a lot of really bad bets by having Western companies contracted to make Western reboots of their classic games instead of, like, doubling down on the things that really worked for them. Street Fighter, Resident Evil.
Dino Crisis.
Well, in a just world, they would have realized that.
I keep saying it. We keep making these Monster Hunters. I mean, that's cool. I get it sells. But you know what would sell more? You know what's better than monsters? Or is a type of monster? Dinosaurs. Come on now.
Most of the monsters in Monster Hunter are dinosaur-inspired or beast.
But that's why people like it.
Hey,
now, what if you had a whole game?
I'm not going to argue. I played through Dino Crisis 2 on stream all in one go. I know the charm. I get it. One of these days I'll admit to you in private that I didn't actually really like that game. No, I'm kidding. But what was I going to say? Capcom it's a miracle that they've survived, found a structure on how they make games that are as
Right.
good as they are and released as quickly as they are too. I just think that's cool, and this is
Yeah.
the second of apparently 3 open world not Resident Evil, RE Engine, Reach for the Moon, is their engine. Games, Dragon's Dogma 2 was an open world game. Then there's this, and the rumor is Resident Evil 9 is open world. We talked about this on a previous episode of the show. And last on the docket for the PlayStation Showcase was Astrobot. Not Astrobot
Fuck yeah,
something,
dude.
but Astrobot. Super happy about
Singular.
this.
They saved the best for last, and it's crazy to say that because there's a lot of, I think, like Silent Hill and in what was it, Infinity Nikki, that's right, and Concord. Like, I think those are really solid things to show, but to me, like, having this go last was a good choice because it's like having like Astrobot, the one that came with the PS5, like having that come with it, even if you didn't buy anything, and the fact that you got that game for free with it, and being able to play that, and like that game is so. I was like 6 months ago where I like went back to it because I don't know, I just had like an hour to burn, and I'm like, I don't want to start God of War. I didn't want to like get invested and then weirdly stop. And I'm like, oh yeah, I had a couple levels left in Astrobot, or a couple like collectible things to get. Let me go get them. And like having that secret boss fight that you wasn't like shown that was going to happen if you unlocked everything, that you fight like the T-Rex or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is
The
sick.
PlayStation
And that's when I'm like,
tech
oh, this
demo T-Rex.
Yeah, like the fact that like it was already good to me, and then when they had that, I was like, oh, this is great. And like, yeah, watching this trailer, the game looks fucking gorgeous and pretty.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, we're getting more puzzles, or not puzzles, like little
Platforming action
trinkets
stuff.
trinkets to use. Oh, he has boxing gloves this time or whatever. He turns into a glider thing that looks really fun.
I bet you are using the fucking, and I say this is a good way, the motion to do that, because it looks very simple. Looks like you're just dodging things,
Yeah, and I'm saying all this, and then they start showing like compilation of just all these bosses, and I'm like, yes, like you liked that. We know you liked that one T-Rex, just big boss fight. Here's 10 more. That's why I liked God of War when I was a kid. Like I always liked like when he fought, the big god or whatever, the big monster, and I'm like, oh cool, we're getting more of that in this. I'm like, everything in this trailer is like, yup. My big question though is, it won't be, but what if it was free? That'd be the ultimate like.
Oh. I have a
cherry on top, but I know
things.
It won't be.
I echo everything you say. You didn't play it, and I never finished it. But Astrobot Rescue Mission was a 2018 PlayStation VR game that had bosses, including the monkey and the squid and the bird. So they're returning. But there's new ones, like the snake is new. I didn't see the spider. One of the bosses was a spider, a female spider. And I forget what her deal was. I think she had, besides her web, she had like something as like clothing, and you had to like break it apart to reveal her weak point. And at the end, before she dies, she's quote unquote naked. It's just a giant robot spider. And you get a trophy if you don't look in the direction of the spider as she's, covering herself up before she dies or whatever, explodes. Yeah, I think that's cool. Also, right at the end here, because I have the trailer just synced right up now, as they blast off into space, all the other little ships are all their PlayStation hardware stuff, which I think is cool. Because that's the thing, like, that first Astrobot on PS4 did not have this PlayStation-centric celebration thing. Astro's Playroom did, right? And I know, like, this game was rumored for a long time of, like, yeah, this is the thing. This is what they've been working on. I know it was back and forth on whether or not it was going to be a VR game, like their first one, because, like, hey, Sony being like, hey, presumably, make something to sell this thing, this hardware. I'm glad it's not, to be honest, because, like, I don't want to buy a VR headset, and I'd like to play this game.
No, yeah, and this is, like, I liked the first one a lot, so it's just, like, having it
having like, and my question is, I'm hoping it's a little bit longer than the free one. Even the free one was pretty long. Like
it was sizable for what a pack-in game is, for sure.
Yeah,
and they had a patch later that added like the time trial stuff, I think.
Yeah, I did a little bit of those. Excuse me.
Here's a real thing.
But I wonder how long this game will be. Like,
I think it'll be decently long. I don't know if it'll be $70. Here's the thing: regardless of its length, and when I say
it's not $70,
regardless of if it's a really long game, like a Nintendo style platformer, where it does feel like, hey, this was a long, decent, good challenge, lots of cool levels, etc. Regardless if it's that or if it's somewhat lesser of that, that doesn't necessarily reflect their pricing decisions, I feel like. To me, it's whether or not they think a cutesy platformer is somehow like deserving of a $70 price tag to gamers' eyes. Not them, but gamers. Do they think that people will be like, oh, this doesn't look like it has the hardcore Last of Us graphics. Why is it $70? I'll wait. Or not, but hey, I don't want those people to play this game because they don't deserve it then, I guess. Yeah, I'm down for it overall. Here's a dumb little conspiracy. I'm just going to throw this out there now, not because I want it to happen. Not because I want it to happen, but because if it does happen, I want credit for it and recognition that the world does suck. I would not be surprised that when this game comes out, Astro's Playroom will no longer be a free packet on the PS5 and they'll sell for $20. Because, hey, I already got this game. Why would I get this new one? I already played it. It's basically the same thing. You're going to get people that are going to say that stuff. And if they get new people to buy PlayStation 5, they don't want them to be able to say that. That is my theory. I want to be wrong because it's one of the best packing games I can think of. Wii Sports is up there too. Eventually, Nintendo stopped bundling that game in. They put in Mario Kart, which is a better pack-in, obviously. And then they had to sell Wii Sports. But even then, I think they sold it for like $20 or something really cheap. So who knows? Dumb thing.
I will say that, like, just to kind of, I was going to say, tie it back to like our main kind of reason we're even kind of talking about this with like Xbox and whatever. I think it'd be kind of, if I'm them, just to be the big fuck you to kind of Xbox right now with all the bad PRs, like, because they like, Astro Bot's good, right? It's like one of the better PlayStation games, and it was a fucking pack-in game, like you said. It would be fucking, I think, good PR for them. They're like, yeah, and this new one coming in September is also free. Just to be like,
that
you don't
would
have to pay
be
anything
good,
for
but
it.
I feel like that team spent 4 years making this, so
yeah, they're not.
They got to get their money back.
Or it would be like PlayStation Plus only.
Hey, actually, I can see that. They are now not packing it. Jesus, I got that verb in my head. They are including PlayStation VR 2 games in PlayStation Plus's premium tier, which is great because I pay for that tier. Granted, I don't have PlayStation VR 2, but like there's not much of a value for a general audience over the middle tier, which is significantly cheaper. I get it because it has the PS1, PSP, and now PS2 stuff that they're adding in, that they're making ports for that come in those with trophies and stuff. So like,
yeah,
I want that for that reason. And they're making a bit more of an effort there for like free stuff. But like, yeah, every now and then the PlayStation will do and this game is launching on PlayStation Plus for free, like what Game Pass promises for everything. I'll talk about it later in the year, but Animal Well, which is one of my games of the year right now, certainly is in my top 5. It was free on PlayStation Plus day one, so that's where I got it. And it was actually at the point where I'm like, I think I might buy it on Steam just so I can buy it because like they deserve some money. That's a good reaction to have for a as a developer. That's what they want. And like I can see Astrobot being like, it's coming day and date on PlayStation Plus, is middle or higher tier, not the Essentials tier, but the extra or premium tier. Awesome looking game. I will say, I don't want to poo-poo anything about this game, but I don't think they showed too much mechanically different than what the PS5 pack-in Astro's Playroom had in terms of how you play. They show power-ups and stuff like that. That's cool. Obviously, yes, but like it does look like more of what I've already played. I liked what I already played. So I will buy this to play what I've already played, even if it's already that. But
It's a little bit more like it's like a casual Mario. Like it isn't as like there's some hard elements at points, but it's nothing that like I could do everything. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay being like it should only take me 3 tries to get this puzzle. That's totally fine with me.
you know what the modern PlayStation thing of the puzzle just telling you how to solve it 3 seconds into walking into a room. Yeah. You know how like every PlayStation fanboy bitches or makes fun of Senua's Saga for doing that, but like that's what God of War and Forbidden West also did. Like they don't want you to they don't want the average gamer to sit there and not finish the game. You know what I mean? They'd rather you figure it out eventually. But
the God of War Ragnarok one wasn't as bad. At least I didn't notice it to be that bad.
And I didn't play it, so I don't have. I just secondhand information for me.
It was definitely there. And when it wasn't in the first game, I'm sure there was a reason, like you said, that they saw the stats or something that like, oh, people were pausing here, or maybe like they were just looking it up. You know what I mean? How to figure out the puzzle. So
I do know that Horizon Forbidden West did have a patch that allowed you to turn down. This is awful to say, how much the main character, the woman, talks. So you hear her talk less because she does talk to herself a lot about puzzles and picking up stuff off the ground and stuff. And I guess they allowed you to change that because that was, I guess, whatever. We're getting into a tangent here. One day I'll play that game as well, but I'd rather play God of War first because I don't know anyone that is a huge Horizon fan. I don't know anyone that's a huge God of War fan either. Overall, the future of PlayStation is bright. I will say... I'm a little surprised, but not that surprised that the PlayStation 5 Pro wasn't announced here. I do remember the PlayStation 4 Pro was announced like a month before it came out. Same thing with the Slim. And I think it basically boils down to the same reason why like Nintendo won't announce a new version of their 3DS or Nintendo Switch. Not like Switch 2, but like the Switch Lite and the Switch OLED. Because they don't want someone to not buy one this weekend like they were planning. They want them to buy that because a good percentage of those people will then also buy the one that they announce anyway. I think the same thing. They don't want people to not buy a PlayStation 5 right now. They don't want their sales on hardware to stop because, savvy customers are like, I can maybe get a better one. But I do kind of think... at some point, when that thing gets announced, I do kind of want to know that, like, hey, were any of the games we saw at this showcase better looking? I don't think that they would have, like, shown any footage today that's running on a PS5 Pro. They're pretty good on showing at the bottom of the screen, captured on PlayStation 5, or captured on PC in a PlayStation 5 dev kit environment. Like, they usually say that stuff at the bottom. Yeah. They're pretty good on it.
They did at the very beginning, too, for, like, Concord there. Saying that.
So I don't think that they would have been sneaky and been like, actually you're gonna get a game that looks worse than what we showed you. But
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think overall about this showcase?
I think it was our friend Jeff there, Game Awards Jeff. He did like a poll or whatever. Like A through D or whatever. And at first I was kind of like, it's a B. And then I'm like, maybe it's a C. Because, I don't know, like if you take away Astrobot, like Concord was kind of cool. But once again, it's just kind of like, we'll see once we get closer what that really is. And then you have Marvel Rivals or whatever.
Marvel Watch.
Overwatch. Marvel Watch. And then the other ones were just like kind of similar, like, action games, which is cool, but nothing crazy. But at the same time, like, I feel like, like these are still like for PlayStation. I think we're just so used to seeing stuff like this because they're usually just having so many of these kind of things come out in a good way. That in a way, I feel like this is kind of funny that they've had this, granted, like, I know it probably took a lot more planning, but in a way, I could see people being like, oh, funny that Xbox is getting all the bad PR the last, like, 2 weeks, and then Sony drops this, you know what I mean, and be like, "Yep, here's all the cool stuff we're doing, by the way."
Yeah.
While they're laying off people and stuff, you know.
Well,
and,
PlayStation lays off, like.
No, but you know what I mean.
They're not innocent.
That, and then or was it not even last? I think it was earlier this week that Call of Duty's announced coming to Game Pass. So it's like, okay, you can have Call of Duty, but we're gonna have God of War on PC. We're gonna do our own Overwatch and stuff. So yeah, we'll see. I think for me, it doesn't really move the needle in any direction, good or bad. I'm just kind of like, cool. I'm excited for Astrobot and Silent Hill, I guess, but yeah, we'll see. I think if they do a PS5 Pro or whatever, that will probably move the needle more, I think. But
I think that's where you show what Naughty Dog's doing.
This didn't suck ass. You know what I mean? I feel like if it sucked ass, people would be like, I feel like then it takes away from the Xbox kind of news a little bit. Not fully, but I think it would have been like, oh, well, Sony isn't doing much better. Look what they announced. Like, the fact that I feel like you had, like I said, 2 weeks ago or last 2 weeks, it's been Xbox game over. We did a whole episode kind of about it, and to have Sony being like, hey, we're just doing our consistent thing.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah. You're all cool games.
We're doing yeah, here's the cool stuff coming.
I agree with you on a C. That's what I would give it as well. Because for the most part, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of games that I think look cool, and in theory, if I had the time, I would definitely give them a shot. I just know I can't. I would give Concord a shot, especially if it's free to play. I will buy and play Astrobot.
Right.
Until Dawn would be cool. I never finished it on PS4, so I can't in good faith be like, yeah, I'm gonna get it and play it, because those types of games, sometimes I'm in a mood for them, and most of the time I'm not, so I'm not in a mood for it right now. Silent Hill 2, I will definitely get it and play it, but then there's a lot of games, like we got a couple fantasy Dark Soulsian style combat games in fantastical settings, and those are cool. I know I don't have time for those, and but then when you see something like Nikki Infinity, I'm like, this is somehow more interesting than one of those to me, just because it's a little bit
different. I forgot about that one. Maybe it is a B.
But,
I take it back. Just for Nikki Infinity, it's a B.
To me, it's like, if I wanted to give this A, well, if we're putting an S tier as well, I guess then this changes it a little bit. But like, it would have to be like, and here's a teaser for the Wolverine game, which is supposedly next year, I think. And here's a teaser for what Sucker Punch has been working on since Ghost of Tsushima. And here's a teaser. They would be like that type of thing where, like, this is how you bring the big guns. And then, one of those games is out this year. Excuse me. That's
Uncharted 7 is here, or whatever number it is. Not 7, but
who knows? There was a rumor for a while that there's a new Uncharted game, because I think last year or the year before, PlayStation had a commercial that was live action, and they've done this in the past on the PS4. On PS4, it was like, here's like the weapon dealer, and like he sold curiosities, and it was like different physical prop recreations of things from PlayStation games, like a Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts 4 or 3 when that game was coming out and stuff like that. They did this commercial of like, the worlds you will go to on PlayStation 5, and it was all like, physical kind of recreations of some of these games. And there was one of just like a woman walking through a tomb like thing, but it clearly wasn't Tomb Raider, and she was blonde. And I know there were like, well, at the end of Uncharted 4, he's got his daughter, and like there was like
my wife,
and he's got his wife. They're like, oh, they could continue, like, his story's over, they could hop in the future and have her go. Maybe this is teasing that. I don't really know what that was. I think that was just, they just did it. I think maybe it was just supposed to be Tomb Raider inspired, even though there was not a Tomb Raider game in the works at the time, for sure. Because that company, that studio was working on Marvel's Avengers. Remember that game? They were not making one.
That was like hot for like 2 months, but it was like, it doesn't look good every time I saw it. And then people were like, no, I promise it's good. And then like,
then it died.
Yeah.
and Spider-Man, I think, was still exclusive to PlayStation, which is crazy. Because it's not like it's a skin; it's like an entire character. For like, what? Anyway, There was that rumor around, and remember, the reason why we even got The Last of Us Part 1 in the way we did was because Naughty Dog, in a bit of their semi-deserved, I will give them credit for that, kind of big-headedness, told Sony overall, no, you can't let this new kind of group of devs from Sony San Diego remake The Last of Us. That's our thing. And before that small group at Sony San Diego, between, they just had more people than they need, and they're like, hey, we could do this. And Sony was like, we can't really sanction a new studio or anything like that, but like if you got the time, give it a shot. Initially, they were going to remake Uncharted 1. And they're like, actually, this would be a lot more work, just like as a graphical thing, to sink their teeth before they make a game for real. And they decided The Last of Us, and then Naughty Dog caught wind of it and said, fuck no. That's our thing to put out and charge $70 for. Yeah, who knows? Maybe someone actually is somewhere making an Uncharted game, because they had that 4 and Lost Legacy collection. They still have the one Vita game that's kind of okay, that actually Sony Bend made, that I don't think Naughty Dog likes that it exists. So I'm sure that won't get a remaster at all because of that. Who knows? Did you actually see that news? That Neil Druckmann interview? One of the main guys at Naughty Dog.
It was, and then it was taken down because it was filled with errors or whatever.
And that wasn't an interview that a journalist did. That was basically a PR Sony thing. And, and like, Sony's a company that basically at this point doesn't really let interviews happen anymore. So it's kind of hard to, like, with actual independent journalistic, outlets or whatever, because PR is easier to maintain if it's all in-house, because that's all they want an interview to be is PR.
It was an internal blog or whatever.
Yeah, because it was during their whole look to the future. Sony's all about creativity as a company, and and they needed to have someone talk about AI and changing the future of video games, and so they warped everything he said to fit talking points that they wanted for the zeitgeist.
I'm just really shocked he didn't review this before it went out, though. Or if he has a publicist or someone who does all that.
Insane.
I don't know, just because I work in a place where we have internal blogs, right, or blogs and you usually go back to the person you interview and be like, yep, does this look good, or whoever, or if you don't go to them, you go to their assistant or whatever. And I'm sure he has an assistant or somebody.
I'm sure there are plenty of PR people that act like that at the company overall. Maybe not at Naughty Dog specifically. I'm sure Sony definitely has that type of people on PlayStation.
So someone probably got in trouble. Who? I don't know, but
because it basically made him seem like he solely makes the games in a sense. His creative vision is all that that drives the games, and that the next game they're working on is going to change everything, and how AI can just do so much. And he's like, I didn't say any of that, please. But he's got some issues, and it is crazy to just. Here's my thing. I'll talk more at length about this another time, but I do believe that while it is cool, interesting, and noteworthy to know about the artist in relation to the art that they made, to know their intentions is cool. To know the things they thought about, to know their meanings that they had behind is cool. Ultimately, as soon as the art is done, the artist dies. They are one of the audience members. The audience is all that remains. What you think about a piece of art, a movie, a game, a book, whatever, is more important than what was intended. What you take away from it is more important, even if you're not someone that critically thinks about the stuff. How that means to you is, in the end of the day, what matters. It might mean more, it might mean smarter to someone else that thinks more, but that doesn't take away what you are. You contribute to the art as it comes out, right? And as soon as the artist finishes the artwork, they just become an audience member. Their input in the whole experience becomes a part of the whole thing. But ultimately, yada, yada, yada. So, when we play Last of Us Part 2, and we play through all that and we really like it, knowing then later, oh, wait, the main writer on this is a Zionist, does change a bit of how you look at two groups of people that are in a never-ending conflict against each other, and who knows how it started, and it's just retaliation. And it's like, well, that's what a Zionist thinks about the Israel and Palestine thing, because it's easier to be like, it's just ancient, it's forever, than to be like, no, we stole their land. And it's a lot easier to say like, it doesn't matter. Like,
it'll be interesting whenever the TV show comes out, because I know he's probably involved with that. Because I know Pedro Pascal has been very like open, free Palestine, like on his social and stuff. So I want to know. Once again, we don't know. I shouldn't say once again, we haven't mentioned it, but like you said, the art and the artist or whatever. But it's sometimes we don't know people. Some people also have opinions that are either uninformed or maybe they don't showcase them in any capacity, so it leaves it up to like sometimes saying nothing also can create more tension or discourse, because you don't know what their thoughts are. So I can't.
Why aren't you denouncing this? Is a very easy thing. As well.
But I mean, Last of Us is still really good, but yeah, definitely like knowing kind of its original, I guess, influence, where it comes from, is a lot from that. It's
an angle makes to take more, for sure. Because like
makes it more not interesting, just makes it more. I don't know how to really like describe it. Just like oh
yeah.
I guess doesn't change my opinions on the game or the stories.
Now knowing that is a little weird now.
But there's a lot of shit like I haven't read the books. I have all the books. I haven't read them yet. But like Dune is a good example where like people will be like, oh well, he critiqued kind of Middle Eastern conflict like before it kind of was a thing, or at the time when it was starting to become a thing. And that's true, but that doesn't make him like, he wasn't like a left-leaning, like, anti empire person or anti-imperialism necessarily. I think he, from what I've heard, he's more of a conservative. Frank Herbert was, but once again, like you said, what do you take from it?
That matters more ultimately, and that can mean little sad as an artist yourself to grapple with that. It's a very, I guess, postmodern way of looking at art, but like that is what I think. But yeah, no, like seeing like my perspective on all that is a little bit muddled a little bit, but at the end of the day, what I took out of it was mainly more about like the cycle of revenge itself as on a person by person basis, and etc. But
it's how it can be,
But I guess to this point,
just like what's the term? Just like not nauseating, but just time consuming and methodical. Not even methodical. But like that word where it's like, that's why I think Last of Us Part 2 is nice in that sense that like, why does this feel so long? It's like, oh, it's kind of. It wasn't until like even after we recorded our episode, I kind of like saw people talk about that. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes I get it more in that sense where it's like, yeah, it did feel. It's like, oh my god, this is like, where is this going? Where is it? It's so mad all the time, and blah, 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 it just keeps going. It's just, yeah.
I will just say this: like, I work with kids, and inevitably, I come always across two kids fighting verbally, or maybe even just like they're kind of slapping at each other. And there was, I don't know who started, and one kid's like, he started or she started or whatever. And I always say like, I don't care who started, I care that it's happening. But those are children. That's not like one of them is like in a prison of the other's making. You know what I mean? That's a completely different type of thing. But actually, to go into Naughty Dog, because again, that whole, it's PlayStation stuff, so I feel like this is super relevant. They are having a lot of trouble making the quality that they are known for at Naughty Dog. Last of Us Part 2 was a huge undertaking. It took a lot of people outside Naughty Dog to just simply help with that game. And for the main reason why, and you can see a lot of this in Jason Schreier's book, Bleeding Pixels or something. I forget what it's called. I'm sorry. Which was about, it had a huge story about the development of Uncharted 4. They crunched like crazy, and after Uncharted 4, most of their artists left, including animators. And they struggled to get people to do that at Naughty Dog for Last of Us Part 2. They had a lot of juniors, but not really any senior staff people to help lead, micro projects within animations and stuff like that. And they had a huge issue with that. They had basically had to crunch like crazy and overstaff to make something that they need. So, of course, that studio, regardless of how butchered that interview was, of course that studio is like, how can we use AI to do this for us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the quality of these games is just not sustainable unless you want to spend 10 years. But the longer you take to make a video game, the more uncertain the environment will be when you release that game. We've seen projects in the past like John Romero's Daikatana, or Duke Nukem Forever, that you have this creator who's so obsessed with making something revolutionary, something brilliantly breathtaking in its graphics and gameplay, and has something no one else is doing. And that desire to keep doing that caused both of those games to just get delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and scrapped and reworked. Oh my god, Half-Life came out and is doing things that we want to do. Screw it, we're scrapping all those ideas. We have to do something else now because we need to be first to do something crazy. That's what Ken Levine spent 10 years, ended up making a BioShock game again after leaving, firing everyone down to 15 people so he can make small inventive games. 10 years later, he's just making a BioShock again, called a different name. Like, that type of stuff happens to people. So, like, making a game quickly is important. But you can't make a Last of Us that looks that good that quickly. That's why, like, you talked about Monster Hunter Wilds not looking extremely AAA, but that's okay. Like, yeah, I'm fine with the bar being low. I'm okay with that. I remember, that old meme of I want worse games with worse graphics that cost more, and I'm not kidding. Because, like, the industry just needs that reality check of, like, graphics are no longer the thing that sells games. We were talking about everything is live service and this and that, and I think because of that, like, I would imagine the majority of Fortnite players on PlayStation are still playing on PlayStation 4 because they can still play the game on PlayStation 4. Why are they going to buy a new PlayStation? The games they play are still there. Roblox is still on there. Minecraft is still on there. Rocket League is still on there. Fall Guys is still on there. Fortnite is still on there.
Fall Guys.
Yeah. So, like, why do they need a new PlayStation? Back in the day, it was because the games look so much better, and you can do cool new genres and stuff like that, but that gap is slimmer and slimmer, and it's more of just, like, the enthusiasts get the PlayStation 5 right away because they know potential, and they appreciate things, like Demon's Souls' graphics looking objectively better than, a lot of PS4 games do because of what the hardware is capable of, but the average person just thinks it's another pretty game, like the other pretty games that they have seen that they are also not interested in. So, like, I don't know. Like, generative AI is a scary theft machine that just takes other people's stuff and gives them no credit, no money, and turns out, artistically worse things. But, like, that kind of buzzword, in my opinion, has been retroactively applied to a lot of tools that devs and animators
I know
had.
there's like, they're doing stuff in movies to, like, help with, like, duplicating background images and
like
stuff.
that stuff
like,
that helps the artist actually achieve a deadline and a quality goal is good. Like, even when it comes
you're
to
right
games,
with the buzzword where it's like, that's why I I try to like preface when I'm like, oh, I'm anti AI in the sense of, yeah, are you using it to steal people's art and then sell it? Are you using it because your company doesn't want to hire an actual artist to make you the poster or social media graphic that you're using, or whatever you need it for? Like you're like, or
Like
if
that
you're
Civil War movie poster.
yeah, or like which is shitty because like A24 is usually known for like caring about the art form of
That's
making
their whole
movies, right?
shtick.
Yeah, so it's like disappointing to see that. But like, or like, if you're a artist or whatever, music artist, and like, oh, we don't want to pay to have someone make the album art, so we're just going to use AI to do it. You know, like that to me, it just goes against the culture of art to me. Like it just, like, yeah, it might save you money, but like, I don't know. To me, like, or I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating. But yeah, but does it mean that, like, I think it's good that if we find a way to like get through Excel sheets or get through data quicker, then 100%. But
Hey, if this
at
can
the end of the day,
program something very basic quick, instead of me spending 20 minutes to
but at
do
the same
something I've done
time,
before.
I don't want it to also used to, yeah, it gets through data quicker, but then that means it's put pressure on people's whose jobs who need to use that tool that their output increases, but then their wages will stay the same, and then
yeah.
therefore, so that's a whole other conversation.
Different
there,
battles
to
and the
have.
whole kind of thing for sure.
Because it's like, yeah, it's great. We can speed up, like you say, to meet this deadline, but then now the deadlines get shorter and shorter, and expectations of what you're outputting increases. But then it's never our wages or whatever. Hey, we saved money. Getting this AI, and now we can only have one person do the job instead of two, and we can meet deadlines quicker. We can put more out. It gets, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a whole other kind of conversation.
For sure. Yeah, any tool that they could use, I think is a good tool to have. And like, I think some of the fear might be, well, if they use a lot of AI stuff, the overall craftsmanship might go down in a way where we're just used to kind of shoddiness and stuff. I don't think that'll necessarily be the case. I'm okay, and I actually prefer games to be sold at full price, even if they don't feel like graphically they look like it. Like, obviously, that impacts how much they're going to sell and all that stuff, but sure, maybe besides that point, like, you shouldn't feel like, oh, Helldivers has to be cheaper because of the way it looks or the scope of what's in it. Like, for the state of the industry in terms of making sure that, like, these companies and studios can survive, you shouldn't feel ashamed or like feel like you need to have the game be cheaper just because it's not like up against GTA 6 in terms of the quality on offer. Look at that stuff like a good value that you're getting when you buy GTA 6. You know what I mean? As opposed to this is what $70 gets me. You know what I mean? But hey, I'm coming from a point where of perspective of someone that will spend money on video games every month. If something I see is good, I'll just get it. You know what I mean? So like, not everyone is me. Most people are not. So like, I get it.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, at this point, I don't have time to play games, so it has to be something I'm really, really interested in, and then the price has to be, to me, like, worth it in that regard as well. Like, I know that's just my circumstances or what my hobbies are at this point in life. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to get God of War, but am I going to spend $40 to try a game anymore? I don't know. Like, part of me is like, oh, I bought Final Fantasy and 7, right? And the latest one.
We're gonna finish that this year because we're gonna talk about it at the end of the year for sure.
I don't know. I was playing it and I'm not liking the direction of the game. So
really,
I wasn't ready for full on open world. I was hoping to be a little bit more streamlined, and now I just feel
it's turning into go back and forth with it.
It's starting to turn into like any of the other games that I'm generally interested in, but it's just like I don't feel like I want to commit time just doing a bunch of side quests to then unlock the other area to do more side quests over and over again just to get story. As opposed to the first game where I feel like it was a little bit more.
It was very streamlined. I need to play more of it, and I'll give you advice on how to what what minimum stuff. Yeah. Anyway, anything else we want to talk about on the state of all this kind of stuff?
No, I don't think I really have anything really more. I mean, it's like I think we covered pretty deeply like where I think the industry kind of is right now, at least in the tube heavy hitters. I guess we haven't done Nintendo, but Nintendo
There's
I don't
apparently a
think has
Nintendo
really
Direct
shifted.
next month, and when they had eventually announced the Switch 2, I guess then we'll maybe talk about that.
Super Nintendo Switch, like we called
Super
it.
Nintendo Switch. Hey, I will just say, the Paper Mario remake that came out, the buttons, the on-screen UI buttons for the main four face buttons, same color as the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom version. A is red, X is blue, that type of stuff. So, yeah. All right. Well, with all that being said, thanks guys for watching. Remember, we are on YouTube. Obviously, you were watching this on YouTube. I hope you are. At Sonic Movie Show on there. We're also on podcast services, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible.com as well. Same name, same handle. We're on Twitch. No, we're on Twitter, Instagram.
Not yet, I guess.
We don't need to be on Twitch. The YouTube, I think,
No, we
is
don't.
YouTube streaming. I think is pretty good for us there.
Well, when YouTube goes under, and Amazon runs everything, maybe.
Well, Twitch allows anyone to multi-stream now. They don't like hold a lock on you. So we could always do both if we really want. But Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think about the PlayStation State of Play? And are you happy, just in general, with life? You happy with life? Hit
Hope
the
it's not too bad
subscribe
for you.
and all that stuff. All right, until next time, goodbye.
See you later.